Then can you go from the back and give him? Huh?
I did.
You have.
Okay. Welcome.
Good diet for you.
Dry fruits are always good. Ready? Good morning, students. We are back to take the English classes for the second year. Yesterday, we had completed the non-detailed part of it, and you all have a few objective questions. Most of your paper is descriptive, and that is why senior inter, the English paper is very lengthy, because not only section A consists of descriptive, even in section C, you have descriptive, 5 units, that is letter, CV, note making, dialogue writing, and description. These 5 are again descriptive and takes time. But when you have objective, most of the objective has a choice. I request all the students, I know it is a lengthy paper, but it hardly takes a minute for you to answer the objective questions. Do not leave any answer. You are not penalized. Maybe in the ICSE schools and CBSE schools, when you write extra, they do not mark, but just cut it off saying extra. But here, the marking is done. Now, suppose in comprehension passages, you have to answer any 4 out of the 6. But if you write all the 6 are marked. But the marks given will be on 4. So suppose you feel the first 4 answers are easy and you attempt it, and maybe one answer goes wrong, and that's how you tend to lose a mark. So please, children, I know it is a bit lengthy, but all the objective, I would ask you to attempt them. They hardly take much time, not like the descriptive. So attempt all the 6 questions that are asked in objective type. Now coming to comprehension passages, I have taken a few passages and we will discuss them. Before doing this, I want to explain to you what skimming and scanning are. Skimming and scanning are very important in comprehension. Excuse me. Can I write? The word skimming and scanning are very important in a comprehension passage. Comprehension passage, you do not learn it by heart. So you skim through the passage. You read it very fast, understand, and scan for the important points. This is important, children. Remember, you have to read the passage, because I found many students, they neglect to read the passage and go straight to the question and search for the answers in the passage. This is a wrong way of doing things. You should read, skim through the passage, and then search for the answers. Now, here is a passage from the doctor's word. Yesterday, we had done about the lesson, the doctor's word, where they were 2 friends, Dr. Raman and Gopal, and how for the first time, Dr. Raman covers the truth, but this helps his friend Gopal a lot. Anyway, see, very clearly he says, read the following passage carefully and answer any 4 questions given after it in a word or a sentence. Remember, children, Each question carries 1 mark. 1 mark means 1 word or 1 sentence. There are times when children write a whole paragraph for an answer. This is wrong because the word comprehension itself tells you comprehend. Comprehend meaning understand. The answer will be there in the paragraph, either in the first line or somewhere in the center or the last line. But what it means is basically you have not comprehended the question, and that's the reason why the paragraph was written. So very clearly they say in a word or a sentence each. Now let's read the passage. In his busy round of work, Dr. Raman had not noticed that Gopal had not called in for over 3 months now. He just remembered it when he saw Gopal's son sitting on the bench in the consulting hall one crowded morning. Dr. Raman could not talk to him for over an hour. When he got up and was about to pass on to the operation room, he called up the young man and asked, "What brings you here, sir?" The youth was nervous and shy. "Mother sent me here. What can I do for you?" "Father is ill." So this is the passage which is taken from the lesson, the doctor's word. You have already learned the lesson. So it should be very easy for you to answer the question and answer. What was the first question? What was that Dr. Raman had not noticed? Dr. Raman had not noticed that Gopal had not called him for over 3 months now. That is the answer. Second, how did Dr. Raman remember that what he had not noticed earlier? He remembered it when he saw Gopal's sons. Then, what kind of young man was Gopal's son? See, all the answers are direct questions. There's sometimes a twist, but most of the answers are direct, which you find it in the passage. All you have to do is to comprehend and write. What kind of young man? He was nervous and shy. Then write the phrase from the passage that shows Dr. Raman was always busy. Phrase. Like I said, phrase is a group of words which makes some sense, but not the complete sense. Busy round of work. This shows that Dr. Raman was busy. Write the part of speech in the word round. Busy round of work. Noun. Very easy, isn't it, children? And instead of attempting only 4, please write. It hardly takes a second, children. And what happens sometimes when you attempt 4, if by sheer bad luck you have marked it wrong, you'll stand to lose a mark. When you attempt all 6, definitely all 4 out of the 6 would be right. And in this way, you do not lose a mark and you stand to get full marks in your grammar. So I hope you have understood, children, how you go about writing. First, learn to skim through the passage and then scan for the important points. This is an, does it start this way? Okay. This is an unseen passage. Unseen passage, you need to It is already there in your book, children. Only thing, it's not a non-detailed text. So you should know that it takes a little time to comprehend. Whom to salute? When Dr. Abdul Kalam was the president, he visited Field Marshal Sam McInshaw, who was ailing in the military hospital, Konur. He inquired about Sam's health and asked, before leaving, whether he had any grievance. Sam replied that his only grievance was he wasn't able to stand up and salute his most respected president. Kalam held Sam's hands as both were in tears. Actually, Sam didn't tell Kalam that he had not been paid the pension of the field marshal's rank till then, for nearly 20 years. However, Kalam came to know about it and passed the pension with arrears within a week and sent the check of nearly 1.25 crores to Sam through the defense secretary by a special plane. That is the greatness of APJ. But then Sam received the check and promptly donated to the Army Relief Fund. Who will you salute now? It's very nice anecdote, isn't it, children? Now let's try to answer the questions. What did Kalam ask Sam before leaving him? What did he ask before leaving him? Whether he had any grievance. Whether he had any grievance. What was Sam's reply? This you can write in your own words, children. Sam replied that his only grievance was he wasn't able to stand up and salute his most respected president. He could, because president was standing before him, and because he was ailing, he was on bed and he couldn't stand up and salute his, because he respected his president a lot. And that was the only grievance that he felt he had. Third, was Sam still in service at that time? Can you answer this, children? Was he in service? Pension. When do you get pension? When you're in service? No. And already it was for nearly 20 years. So he had retired 20. See, these are small things which tell you give you the answer. For 20 years already, he had been living a retired life. So was Sam still in service at that time? No. You can just write simple no, or you can mention he had already retired for 20 years. Find the word from the passage that means money that is owed and should have been paid earlier. What does it mean? Money that is owed and should have been paid earlier. Arrears. Where is the word arrears here? The word arrears. That is the word. Now, next. So, money that is owed and should have been paid earlier means arrears in one word. Which act of APJ proves his greatness? In what way was he proved himself to be great? When he realized that Sam McInshaw had not been paid for 20 years his pension, Immediately, he passed the pension with arrears. You can write it in your own words and sent the check of nearly 1.25 crores. And how? Through the defense secretary by a special plane. That was his greatness. The moment he came to know Sam McInshaw, who had retired 20 years earlier, had not been paid even a single pie of his pension, immediately all the 20 years arrears came up to 1.25 crores. Not only he passed the check, but he got the defense secretary and sent the check through a special plane. The passage conveys the message that we should salute only one of the personalities mentioned in the passage. Is it true or false? It is false. Why? Because both of them were great. APJ Kalam, for his greatness in sending the arrears to Sam McInshaw. And what did Sam McInshaw do? He promptly donated it to the Army Relief Fund. So, in this way, both the personalities were very great. APJ for coming to know his friend's grievance, though he did not admit it, and Sam McInshaw, who immediately promptly donated to the Army Relief Fund. Third passage. The very word COVID spreads dread worldwide. But Dr. Annam Srinivasa Rao of Khammam stands out as an exception. Putting his life at risk, he served a large number of COVID patients in various ways. His organization served food and extended medical facilities to them while alive. When dead, the foundation arranged for transportation and last rites of hundreds of bodies when their own families abandoned the bodies. When he was tested positive, he was worried, not of his health, but of the people who needed his service. By looking after hundreds of disabled, both physically and mentally, orphans from far and near, for over a decade, his organization, Annam Seva Foundation, Danavai Gudam, Khammam, has redefined philanthropy. He was inspired into this service when he himself grew up in an orphanage. His struggles to secure some employment helped him master the art of taking everything in his stride. Thus, he continues his services undeterred by police cases, neighbors' wrath, financial constraints, etc. An admirable spirit indeed. So after reading it, children, check the questions and accordingly answer. What makes one describe Dr. Annam Srinivasa Rao as the warrior who broke all barriers? Because he risked putting his life at risk. He served a large number of COVID patients. Like the very first word says, COVID spreads dread worldwide. Yet, he put his life at risk to serve a large number of COVID patients. does the world respond to the word COVID according to the passage? The word dread. The people worldwide, whenever they hear the word COVID, are filled with dread. Why was Dr. Annam Srinivasa Rao worried when he was tested positive? Why? It was not because of himself, but for the people whom he looked after. He was worried not of his health, but of the people who needed his service. Many people needed his service. It's mentioned here, hundreds of disabled, physically as well as mentally, orphans from far and near, not only his place, Khammam, but surrounding areas also. And he had been running this for over a decade. So people, when he was tested positive, he was not worried about himself, but he was worried about the other people whom he was looking after, who needed his service. They were orphans, they were disabled people suffering from disorders, whether it was mental or physical. Name the organization that he founded and its location. It was Annam Seva Foundation, Danavai Gudam, Khammam. This is the location. This is the name of the organization. It was after his name. His name was Dr. Annam Srinivasa Rao, and it was named after him, Annam Seva Foundation, and it was in Khammam district. Why did Dr. Annam Srinivasa Rao choose this path? This is very important. Why did he choose this path? Many people, whether they are doctors, engineers, they think about themselves, how to get fame as well as lot of wealth. But here he was going out of the way to help other people and founded a foundation. But why do you think he chose this path? It was because he himself he grew up in an orphanage. He grew up in his orphanage, and his struggles to secure some employment helped him to master the art of taking everything in his stride. And that's the reason, because he knew the difficulties of the people living in an orphanage, orphans who hardly get anyone's help because there's no one to help them. They have to stand on their feet. Having struggled a lot staying in the orphanage, he could put himself in the shoes of an orphan, and that's the reason why he went about helping all of them. Pick out from the passage the one word substitute that means selfless service. When he says pick out, the word is there in the passage, children. Please make sure that you only take the word what is there in the passage. You cannot come up with your own. Sometimes, like here, it is selfless service. But usually what, if it's easy, you just write like old. Immediately you'll say young. Maybe that word young is not in the passage, but something else. So remember, when they say pick out from the passage, it should be from the passage. One word substitute, that means selfless service out of love for humanity. philanthropy. That one word substitute is philanthropy. Helping people, going out of their way to help people in by their service, by money, in kind, anything. Helping people or making sacrifices is philanthropy. So children, have you understood this passage where Dr. Annam Srinivas, having lived in an orphanage, could understand the difficulties of the orphans, and that's the why he's arranged Annam Seva Foundation, which helped many people, hundreds of disabled, both physically and mentally orphans from far and near for over a decade. Now coming to passage 4. This is from the first non-detail, the woman on platform number 4. It should be easy for you children because this is a lesson from your non-detail. And I've already mentioned the lesson. The first lesson, the woman on platform number 8. I was going to refuse out of shyness and suspicion, but she took me by the hand. Then I felt it would be silly to pull away my hand, silly to pull my hand away. She told a porter to look after my suitcase, and then she led me down the platform. Her hand was gentle. She held my hand neither too firmly nor too lightly. I looked up at her again. She was not young, but she was not old. So this is a passage from the non-detailed lesson, the woman on platform number 8. Now the first question, name the short story from which this passage is taken. It is not written here, but since it's your lesson you have learned, you have to write the woman from platform number 8. Sometimes non-detailed questions come, they ask you even for the author. You should know. In the author of this is Ruskin Bond. Since it's not asked, you needn't mention, but you should remember the short story is from the woman from platform number 8. What was Arun going to do? He was going to refuse. He was going to refuse out of shyness and suspicion. How did she hold his hand? She held his hand neither too firmly nor too lightly, but gently. Okay? She held his hand. You have to change. You can't write held my hand. When you write, change it. She held his hand neither too firmly nor too lightly. Now, how did Arun feel of taking back his hand away? He felt it would be silly to pull his. Again, my changes to his. It would be silly to pull his hand away. He felt it would be silly. What did she tell the porter? She told the porter to look after my luggage, my suitcase. She told the porter to look after my suitcase. Pick out the word from the passage which means tender, gentle. So pick out the word from the passage which means tender. It is gentle. So children, when you learn the non-detailed lessons, there are no annotation. But from non-detail, you get not only question and answer, but also passages. So for the passages, you should know who the author and the name of the lesson, because sometimes in the passages, they will ask who the author is, also the name of the lesson. Now coming to the next. Huh? All six. So look at this passage. This passage is also from the non-detail. We had done it yesterday. The lesson was a French author, Guy de Maupassant, and the name of the lesson was Lost. Do look at that lovely fur, the Baroness said, while her dark eyes expressed her pleasure. I must have it. But she looked at the white ticket on which the price was marked. 4,000 rubles, she said in despair. That is about 6,000 florins. Certainly, he replied. But what of that? It is a sum not worth mentioning in the presence of such a charming lady. If you remember, it was only yesterday that I had taken the lesson Lost, where I had described to you about how a married baroness was chased by a man, a handsome, wealthy man from the ghetto. He was himself a baron, but he was a Jew. I explained to you this. So keep this in mind when you learn the lesson. He was a Jew, and Jews were usually put up in a ghetto. It is usually a place which was on the outskirts of a city, because the people in the upper class society looked down on the Jews. Though he was handsome, he was wealthy, but this lady was basically a well-to-do baroness, and she was in love with her husband and had no idea of being courted by the young, handsome Jew. So what she did, I explained to you, isn't it? When she she wanted to trick this person, and that's the reason when she went into the Russian quarter where they were all furs and everything, her husband quietly slipped away, because he knew over here it would be very expensive. Furs are basically very expensive, and he knew that he could not afford it. And his wife wanted to trick this man who was following her. So she went and stood before a beautiful fur, a sable cloak. And she kept on looking at it with admiration. And she said, I really need to have this. It's such a beautiful fur. Then she happened to see the price tag, and her heart was filled with despair, because it costed 4,000 rubles, Russian currency. And if you change it, it was 6,000 florins, which she knew was way beyond her means. So when she was in despair, the man immediately said, what of that? It's all worth it. And charming ladies like you should not think about the price. It is a sum not worth mentioning in the presence of a charming lady. So what attracted the attention of the baroness? It was a lovely fur that she happened to see. What was there on the ticket? The price was, do not mention extra, children. Don't mention 4,000 rubles and all that. It is given here what was there on the white ticket. Only the price was marked. That is what I'm trying to say. It carries only 1 mark. You have to give 1 word, maximum 1 sentence to be written. Even if you give incomplete sentence, like you needn't write on the white ticket, the price was marked, it's all right. Or you can just write price was marked, it's all right. You needn't write the complete sentence. But please see that you don't write lengthy answers. What is the price of the fur? It was 4,000 rubles. Again, you needn't change it to 6,000 florins. What was the price? It was 4,000 rubles. I must have it. Who does the word I refer to? I was the baroness. I must have it, she says. So who does the word I refer to? It is the baroness. The lady could afford the lovely fur. Could she afford it? That is why she was in despair. That means she could not afford the fur. Write the antonym from the passage of the word hope. Antonym. Remember that antonym is opposite. And synonym is similar meaning. So the antonym of hope is despair. So this is how you go about answering the comprehension, children. Remember, keep to a word or maximum a sentence. Don't give lengthy answers. Read properly, understand it, and then say. Now this is bird lover of a rare kind. Penumaka Mahalakshmi. And by the way, it's an Mahalakshmi immediately comes to your mind. It is a woman. No, that is why it is written a man, please. He was a man. Of Kadiyam in East Godavari district is a daily wage earner. What does the word daily wage earner mean? Daily wage. When you work, you get money. When you don't work, you don't get money. So that is, he was a daily wage earner from a downtrodden community. When difficult words come, please think of the meaning. Downtrodden, which were not looked after well. The lower class people, they belong to the lower class community. Yet he has been feeding thousands of birds regularly for over 6 decades. You know the meaning of decade? 10 years is 1 decade. He is now 72 and his service continues. He collects sheaves of paddy from the farmers during the harvest time. He stores those paddy bundles in a nearby temple. Every evening, he picks up the ears of paddy and weaves them into ornamental tassels. Tassels, the end you find hanging things, those are known as tassels, and hangs them from the buildings. Birds in flocks, group of birds, feed on them joyously. On New Year's Day, he erects an arch. rounded dome-shaped entrance is known as an arch near the temple and hangs some beautifully woven tassels from it. Tassels, like I said, which the hangings from it. Thousands of chirping birds picking grains from that ornamental arch is a sight to behold. This rare act of real charity has seen the light of day as a national best teacher awardee, Mr. Chilkuri Srinivasa Rao, himself a lover of dogs and plants, feeds hundreds of stray dogs every day and planted over 1 lakh saplings so far, has written about Mahalakshmi in Praja Shakti, January 2021. So based on this, the question and answers. How does Penumaka Mahalakshmi make his living? How does he do? He's a daily wage earner. I told you, you must have seen the masons and those laborers and everything. They go out, take a laborer who builds building, who works in building a building. So he goes there and every day he works, he gets money and comes back home. The day he does not get money, he does not get work, he does not get any money. So daily wage earner meaning the day they work, they get money. The day they don't get any work, there is no money. So he makes his living as a daily wage earner. How does Mahalakshmi find means to feed hundreds of birds every day? He goes to the farmers and collects. During harvest time, he collects sheaves of paddy from farmers. So during harvest time is the time when they cut paddy. They are so is when you put the seeds. And harvest is when you cut them, when it is ready to be cut. Okay. So during the harvest time, he collects sheaves of paddy from the farmers. What is his art that attracts people attention towards his charity? He just doesn't put the seeds to the birds, but he makes an ornamental he weaves them into ornamental tassels, attracting not only the birds to eat it, but it is so attractive that even people come to watch that beautifully constructed ornamental tassels. How has Mahalakshmi's rare act of charity come to light? In what, how it was Mr. Chilkuri Srinivasa Rao. He was a National Best Teacher awardee himself because he himself was a lover of dogs and plants and feeds hundreds of stray dogs. every day. This man happened to come across, he happened to see the work of Mahalakshmi and has written about him in the Praja Shakti. So, Mr. Chilkuri Srinivasa Rao, you needn't write. He himself was a lover of dogs and plants. That is for your information. He himself was that, so he appreciated the work of Mahalakshmi. So, but you have to write just Mr. Chilkuri Srinivasa Rao has written about Mahalakshmi in Praja Shakti. Write the idiom used in the passage to mean publicly known. What was the idiom? Sight to behold. Okay? Write the word used in the passage that forms a sort of homophones from sight, sight. Write a word used in the passage. See, both are pronounced same. Sight, the place, and to give an example. Here the spelling is different, but the pronunciation is same. Yes. Only one is there. Near the temple. This is one site. SITE, SIGHT. All are pronounced same. Sight, sight, sight. This is looking. Sight is an area, and this is to give an example. This is again from the non-detailed text where the Christmas gift, the two newly married couple, Jim and Della. It is from that lesson written by William Sidney Potter, otherwise known as O. Henry. Della's white fingers quickly opened the package, and then at first a scream of joy followed by a quick feminine change to tears. For there lay the combs, the set of combs, side and back, that Della had seen in a Broadway window and liked so much. They were beautiful combs, so expensive, and they were hers now. But alas, the hair in which she was to wear them was sold and gone. She took them up lovingly, smiled through her tears, and said, "My hair grows so fast, Jim." So in this lesson, first thing you have to do is recollect from which lesson and who the author is. The lesson is the Christmas gift, and the author is O. Henry. At least his full name is William Sidney Potter, but goes by the pen name O. Henry. So, who gave the package to Della? Here it is not mentioned, but you know in the lesson it was given by her spouse, Jim. What was Della's reaction at first? At first, a scream of joy. Okay? How did her joy change? It changed to tears. You know that. She was very happy because she had appreciated the comb once when they had gone to Broadway. And that's how Jim remembered that she had liked the side and the front combs, side and the back combs. And that is why he bought her. But why did it change? Because her hair was already cut and she could not use the combs. What did Della find in the package? She found the set of combs. You can just mention that. You needn't mention side and back. You want, you can, it's still short. The set of combs, put a hyphen, side and back. Where had she seen the combs earlier? In a Broadway window. When they had gone window shopping, she happened to see it in the Broadway. The combs were inexpensive. Right, true or false? So expensive. So it is not true but false. Understood, children? Passage 8. Pencil preachers. It tells a small pencil which every child uses. The lesson that it teaches. Preaches telling you something. Pencil seems to be little, but teaches 6 great lessons of life. Surprising? See how. First, the pencil suffers a little when we use a sharpener, but afterwards, it is much sharper. So let's learn to bear certain pains and sorrows because they will make us better persons. Second, it allows us to use an eraser to rub out mistakes. This means correcting something we did is not necessarily a bad thing. It helps us to keep on the right path. What really matters in it is not its wooden exterior, but the graphite inside. So let's always pay attention to what is happening inside us. It always leaves a mark. In just the same way, everything we do in life will leave a mark. So let's try to be conscious of that in every action of us. It gets shorter and shorter with use. So does life. Let's make the most of it while it lasts. And lastly, it writes till the end. Let's try to be useful and productive till the end. Nice lessons, isn't it, children? How well it shows us in what ways we can imitate a pencil. We stop writing pencil with a pencil now and then. Why? Because it needs to be sharpened. It's not given here, but it means we use a sharpener because it has become short. What is the result of bearing pains and sorrow? What is the result? It will make us a better person. You needn't write persons, but person will do. Next. Is correcting something we did a bad thing? It's not at all a bad thing. Like I said, we are human. To err is human. Remember that, children. It is very, very important. To err is human. And when I say err means mistake. It's not only small children who make mistakes. We are human beings, even the elders make mistakes. What you have to do is to learn from your mistakes. Once when you make a mistake, do not repeat the same mistake. And that's how you learn through your mistakes. So what's the question? Actually, is correcting something we did a bad thing? Is not necessarily a bad thing. It helps us to keep on the right path. That's what I said. You learn from your mistakes. Next. What matters most in a pencil? It's the graphite, which is inside. The character. Like take, for example, self-discipline. When you are grown up, you know what is right and what is wrong. Suppose there is no teacher in the classroom, test is going on. The teacher, for some urgent work, just steps out. That doesn't mean you do something wrong. Looking into your neighbor's book or talking and nothing. There should be such thing as self-discipline, where you know what is right and what is wrong. That counts. Character of a person is very, very important. It takes years to build up your character. It just takes a second to ruin it. So character is very important. And likewise, the graphite inside the pencil teaches you that it is important. It's not the outward appearance, but what is inside. Why should we be conscious of every action of ours? Every action we should be, because it will, life will leave a mark. Whatever you do, it is remembered. And that is why you should be conscious of what you are doing. And the last question, we use the pencil till the end, right? True or false? It is true. Even when the pencil becomes small, you go on writing till the end. And that's why he says, in this way, man also should remember that whatever you do, leave a good deeds behind you so that you are remembered. We had that example when there was a comparison between an oak tree and the lily. Oak tree, though it grows for hundreds of years, is not remembered by people. But a lily, it lives for a short time, but it spreads its fragrance. And that's how people are attracted towards it. The noble nature and keep going is very, very helpful, children. So keep this in mind. So we shall end the lesson here. We have done 8 passages, some from non-detailed, some unseen passage. So children, remember, when you do the comprehension passage, 2 things you should keep in mind: skimming and scanning. Do not go straight to the questions, but skim through the passage before reading the question and answering. So, and another thing, comprehension. Comprehend means understand the passage. Write it in a word or a sentence. So here I will end the session, children. Good day. Have a nice, peaceful day.